Oh, hello, people. Oh, we've got people here. We got Kenta Ray here. We got Marilex here. And we've got Maria here. Maria's in the house. Maria's in the house. Hey, hey. So I'm so glad that you all could join us tonight as usual. I don't think we have a huge crowd tonight, but I'm okay with that, Maria. Are you okay with that?
Yes.
It just means we
We
can
like
give you all a
small increments.
personalized attention. That's all
Mhm.
that means. Hey, William. Hey. So, today, I mean, obviously, I don't need to do an introduction for Maria. Y'all already know and love her. What I was thinking we would do is kind of go over each of our top two things that we think people mess up on the most or have the most questions on. Like, if you had to pick a topic, you're like, look, you have to know this before you go in and test. What would be one of those things that you think students ask us about and that they need to know? Because sometimes those two categories don't match up.
Um, valid, void, voidable, unenforceable.
Oh, you want to break it down for them? Because Lord knows we get asked that a lot, and that's what my video I'm working on is about.
I know. I know. You told me you were doing that. That's a good idea. So, number four things that we got to have valid. Can you see chat? I can't see chat, but can
I
you
can
see in
see
the chat?
chat. Mm-hmm.
Okay, somebody put in the chat what our four things are. What's
Ooh.
thing number one?
Thing number two, thing number three, and thing number four.
Hmm.
Now, there is a little bit of a delay. They know that. I don't know what that is. I
Oh
think I
wait,
can
maybe I
fix it.
can't see. Oh, I can see chat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sorry guys. I'm. This is a different
This is
system.
new. We're doing a new thing. This isn't how we usually do for webinars. So, you
Can
got
I
to give
put
us some
something in the
grace.
chat? No, probably not. I probably have.
I think you can. Let's see.
Can you write in there for them?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
okay.
can.
It's not
So, do
letting me
you?
do that. We put our consideration.
All
We
right.
have our mutual agreement or slash meeting of the minds. We've got let's see, legal purpose or legal objective and competent parties. That's our four things for a valid contract, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
if we're missing one or more of those, then our contract is void. And we're just like dead there with that.
Mm-hmm.
And then also if we're having a valid contract, but something funky happened usually in the formation, then we've got voidable. So we have like duress. Like if I threatened Candace and I said, do this or else, that would be duress. She could void it, right? She's the injured party there. If Candace had been in the hospital with the flu for like 2 weeks and she was just worn out, and I just came to her bedside and pestered the heck out of her until she signed, that's undue influence, right? And she's like, just I'll
Right. I'm
sign it.
dying, and that's all you got. Sign here. Sign here, Candace.
Yes, sign here or else. Anyway, that's more undue influence where I'm like wearing her down. Or like the minor in most states, I know California's exception, but like 17-year-old inherits a property from his dad that died, and he sell the house? And yes, he can, but that would be voidable because it's a minor entering into the contract, right? And then unenforceable, I always say, like, the best example I can come up with for unenforceable is a verbal real estate contract. If Candace and I were like, I was like, Candace, I'll give you $400,000 for this house you've got, and and she was like, sure, okay, and we shook on it, but we never wrote it down. Remember, the statute of fraud says that in order for the contract to be enforceable in a courtroom, has to be in writing unless it's like a short lease.
Can I
So,
interrupt you for one moment?
yeah.
Because I don't know if you can see the chat, but there's something that has to happen because Lisa passed
Oh, I see it
her
now.
exam.
I see it.
What? You know what that means?
Good job, good job. Good job, good job.
G-O-D-J-O-B.
T-O-O-D-J-O-B. Good
Good
job,
job,
good
good
job.
job. I love it.
That's cute.
Congratulations, Lisa. I need to
Congratulations,
get something that's like
Lisa.
a party sound or something like that. And you earned your song.
My money don't jiggle jiggle, it folds. I like to see you wiggle wiggle, for sure.
Congratulations, Lisa.
Very good.
I am
Very good.
so proud of you and so happy for you. We love it when people pass. And if you have anything that you want to drop in about the test in there, I love it. I love it. And I hope that you felt amazing when you did pass because you should. That is no easy feat at all. You
Right,
know that.
especially
So,
in North Carolina is a hard one.
yay. All right. Sorry to interrupt, but we gotta
No,
we gotta
that's important.
celebrate.
Yeah, so that's it. That's all I was going to say.
Okay,
The
so
the
I
thing
was
that's
thinking the other day, and this is me, y'all. This is us spitballing, so don't be mad at us. I'm trying to come up with an example of food. Like, if you have all four things, it's this meal. But all of a sudden you add this and it magically becomes something else. Or you take it away and it
mm,
becomes something else. Because that is void and voidable. It's like if you have all four things, it this is a terrible example. If you have Rice Krispie treats, it's a dessert. If you take out the marshmallows, it's just cereal. Like, do you get what I'm trying to say? There's got to be a food there. And that's okay, Susan, if you didn't pass. Next time we got you. Next
we're gonna
time
have
we're
to
going to
get
get you. But there's
corn.
got to be a food or something where it is what it is, but if you take something away, then it's something different. I know there
Oh,
has to be a
I
food
know,
example. Hmm?
I know. A cannoli.
A cannoli.
Yeah.
Well, give me an
You know, like
example. I must not know enough about Italian desserts.
if you take the filling out, then it's just a cookie.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
I got you. So, wait a minute. A cannoli is just a cookie that's wrapped up?
A cannoli is just a cookie that's got custard stuff stuck
Really?
in it.
That outside is just a cookie? Okay, I'm gonna need
Yeah.
y'all to know. Did everybody else know this, but except me, cannoli is just a cookie with filling?
It's like a wafer with filling. It'd be
See
like
what?
if you didn't put the white stuff in the Oreo. It's just a cookie. Maybe
Oh.
Oreo's better.
I know there's got to be a food there where, like, hey, this is a food, but if you take it away, then it could be eaten. Like, it's a valid contract, but if you take it away, it's a voidable contract. This is a food with everything, but if you take this thing away, you could eat it at only one meal, or like, there's got to be something there that works, but that's okay. So let me think. You said void, void, and voidable is something people always need to know. I know what they always need to know. Similar to contracts, but a little bit different. They need to understand exclusive agency, an
Hmm.
exclusive right to sell, and then, of course, the open agency. Because people are always asking us this. And yes, you need to know it. And yes, it's going to be on your test. So, exclusive, and if I were to put them in order, I'd not that there is an order, I would say it goes open, exclusive agency, exclusive right to sell, or I could start with exclusive right to sell and then exclusive and then open. So let's start with exclusive right to sell. Exclusive right to sell means that there's a seller. That seller has hired one broker, one firm, one company to be the listing agent, to represent their interests, to have open houses, to put signs in the yard, to do all of that. There's only one company, and that company gets paid when a ready, willing, and able buyer is found. Doesn't matter who finds it. It's all about if the buyer is found during that term of the contract. We're not going to talk about after the contract quite yet. But during the terms of that exclusive right to sell agency contract, if a buyer is found, whether it's that listing company that finds it, there could be a secondary agency or broker who's representing the buyer. If that broker finds them, if somebody walks in off the street and just randomly buys the house, or if you heard me say, if aliens pop down out of outer space and want to buy that house, and an exclusive right to sell, that listing broker has earned their commission because a buyer was found. Our next step down would be exclusive agency, which is basically the same as exclusive right to sell, except we've got one exemption. It gives the seller the ability to not pay a commission if the seller finds the buyer. So in an exclusive agency, it doesn't matter if those aliens fell out of space. It doesn't matter if it's the listing broker or the buyer's broker. It doesn't matter. A commission gets paid. But if the seller finds the buyer themselves in exclusive agency, the seller doesn't have to pay a commission. It's like they did the work, so why are they going to pay a third-party company? And then you have open agency. An open agency kind of feels like FSBO. Because in an open agency, that seller is saying, look, and you can do an open house, and you can do an open house, and you can do an open house. I don't have one agent that's trying to sell my house. I have everybody who can do open houses, all of this on my property. And it doesn't matter how much work you do. I'm only paying the broker who finds the buyer. That's it. You're not the broker who found the buyer. You don't get paid. You did 7 open houses trying to find a buyer, but it wasn't you. Sucks to be you. So sad, so bad. You don't get paid. So, exclusive right to sell, I like to say, has more words and more opportunities for you to get paid than exclusive agency, which has that out for the seller, and an open agency where only the broker who finds the buyer will get paid. So, that was a lot, I know, but hopefully that makes sense.
But you just
Um,
said something important, and you
mhm.
need to say that a second time, so in case
What'd
they
I
missed
say?
it. About the extra words thing. That's a good
Oh,
thing
the
that you
extra
came
words
up.
thing. So I look at it by how many words. Exclusive right to sell has exclusive right to sell. Yeah, 4 words. I can count. So it's more opportunities to get paid than exclusive agency, which is 2 words. And you have this opening. There's all of a sudden a chance you might not get paid if the seller finds the buyer. And then you just have open agency, which is just look, only the broker who finds the buyer is getting paid. So hopefully that makes sense. And I'm just checking the, yeah,
She
okay.
was
Oh, and
saying about the somebody said about the open listing again. Like, say more
okay.
about the open listing.
Okay, so Miralex and Victor Toro, I don't know which one of you it is, but let us know if that makes sense or if it doesn't make sense because that's why we're here. This is why we do these extra things for you all guys because we know sometimes y'all have questions and we maybe don't get to them in a webinar because we're supposed to be doing those questions. Christina said, "Can you explain the difference between having a license to having an easement on somebody's property?" Ooh, that's a good question. Want me to grab that one or you want it?
Yeah, that's fine. I was gonna say, like, if I say Candace is my neighbor, this is my real life example because my neighbor does this. So pretend Candace is my real life neighbor, and her house faces a busy road, but my house faces the subdivision. So she asks me if she can cut across my yard when she walks her dog so that she doesn't have to walk on the busy street. And I say yes. That's a license. Like, we don't have any formal agreement. We're not like tied for life to this. If one day I get in an argument with Candace and I don't want her to do it anymore, I can revoke it at any time and say, I don't want you to do that anymore. Also, it could also be like, if I tell her she can fish in my little fishing pond in my backyard. As long as we're getting along good and everything's going good, she can do it, but I can change my mind at any time. If I die, then she has to ask the next owner if it's okay. Um, if I were to sell the house, it doesn't go with the property. It doesn't run with the property like a lot of easements. I got to plug my computer in real
Oh,
quick. So
that's good. You're
you
fine. I think what
want
she's
to?
really trying to say is this idea, and look, I'll make it so y'all don't have to see just there we go. So y'all don't have to see Maria's open seat. It's all about, well, a license is not an encumbrance, but an easement is. Oh, she's back. We can put her back on the screen. A license is not an encumbrance, but an easement is. And what do I mean by that? Well, so if there is an easement, so let's say that Maria does grant me an easement to cross her property. That easement attaches to me and the property that's being crossed. So that easement is in place as long as I live, and or if she sells the property to somebody else, that new property has the burden and has to follow this rules. It's a encumbrance. It's limiting their bundle of rights. But a license, just like your driver's license, it's not forever. It can be revoked. It's gonna expire. I can't pass it on to anybody else. It's not an encumbrance because the next owner doesn't have to follow it. So can an
Kayla,
easement be taken away
yeah.
like a license? No. Once you grant somebody an easement, it is what it is. It is what it is. It's kind of like having kids, no takebacks. Let's see. I'm going backwards here. Is plat another word for lot in blocks? You want to take that one because I'm gonna walk away for a second because my dog. So you go for it.
So it is a plat map is used for a subdivision. So, like, if you're from the South, a lot of times we call a neighborhood like a subdivision a plat. But the plat map is where all the lots are on the map, all the blocks are on the map. It's like a visual. of that neighborhood, right? So plat map would be used in the lot and block type legal description because of the fact that the lots and the blocks are on that map, if that makes sense. So it is associated with lot and block, the plat map. Yeah. And sometimes you hear people calling a plat is the same word as subdivision, if you're not familiar with that. Can I just, let's see. I'm sorry, I was like looking at the other question. So we did plat map.
Attorney in fact.
Oh yeah, okay.
So what's an attorney? Let me one more thing with my dog. Sorry, he's being a pester. You go grab
That's
that.
okay. Attorney in fact, like, okay, for example, my grandfather, when he was in the hospital, I had a power of attorney so that I could talk to the doctor, I could sign bills for him, I could do whatever I needed to do in his stead because he was sick. Right? He had granted me that. He had signed it in front of an attorney saying that, that he wanted me to act on his behalf. That's a power of attorney. And that paper is a power of attorney, but the person who has the power of attorney to act on somebody else's behalf is called an attorney in fact, even though in fact they probably aren't really an attorney.
Boop. All right, let's see, what else do we have? Can we also explain about revocation offer and rejection of offer? Yes. So revocation, another form of that word is to revoke. So when you revoke something, I'm not Maria. Helps if I do this. So a revoke, it means somebody's taking something away. So if I am trying to buy Maria's house, I give her an offer. If I say, nope, never mind, I don't want to buy your house, I'm taking away this offer where I said I might want to buy her house. That's revocation. The offeror is changing their mind. But a rejection is when she gets my offer. It's like, will you let me buy your house? Yes or no? And she says, no. To reject is to say no. You're saying, no, you cannot buy the house, Candace. So in both instances, the offer is terminated. The question is, by whom? If it's still an offer and I change my mind as the offeror, the one giving the offer, I revoke the offer. If I give her an offer and she says no, then she's rejecting the offer. Like, no, Candace, I can't buy my house. So hopefully that helps, right? And your next question, if you want to take it, is, does riparian only refer to rivers and streams?
Yeah, rivers and streams, the flowing water. Riparian is flowing water, right? And then remember what littoral is? What is littoral? Sorry, let me silence
I don't know,
this.
but
What
I
is
feel like
littoral?
Superman's flying in for this news update. So
So littoral is lakes and oceans, right? Bodies of water like that. So if it's flowing water and the water rights have to do with flowing water, riparian. If it's like things with tides or like enclosed water like lakes or oceans, then it's littoral. L for lake, R for river.
mhm. Our next question, Susan, I'm going to have to say that is not a question for a webinar, but I do have a video on it. It's explain meets and bounds. Actually, yes, I could explain meets and bounds. I don't know why I was thinking government rectangular survey system. Never mind. I could explain meets and bounds. So meets and bounds is easy. Imagine, well, first, you got to think of a perimeter. So you can see that clock above my head. Oh, look at me using the right hand. There's a black line. This is so hard when I have to go opposites. Nope. Okay, yeah, that hurt my head. That literally hurt my head, y'all, because I'm backwards and mirrored. You could say that black strip is the perimeter of the clock. And that is a meets and bounds description. They're like, okay, start at the corner above Candace's curls. Go all the way up to almost to the top of the L. And then you're going to go other way to the, what is that? Whatever that is, right or left for so long. And then, so you get what I'm saying? You're describing the perimeter. Go 500 feet north until you get to this boundary, right? And then once you get to that boundary, go a different distance and direction until you describe the perimeter. All right. So you start at a point called the point of beginning, and you end at that same point, the point and the point of beginning. Blah, 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 blah. If I got that there.
Like somebody had one the other day that was about meets and bounds, and the question used the word westwardly. and which is a really and they were asking me like English was their second language. They're like, "What is westwardly?" Like, I don't even. That's the craziest
I'm
way.
assuming it's west. You got
Yeah,
me.
it's like going in a going to the west, like traveling to the west, I guess. But they had phrased it so weird, and I was like, so if you see like something with like the root of west, north, east, south, whatever, don't worry so much about
Yeah.
wordly and all that. It's probably meets and bounds. Anytime
Because
they're
if I
talking
got
about,
that, I'd be guessing I'm like going somewhat
yeah,
west. I mean, I guess that's
yeah,
different.
I don't know.
West is
Again, I was
probably
wrong.
straight, and then westwardly has got to be like
I know. I would
northwest to
prefer,
southwest.
yeah. But it just if you
Mm.
see directional words like that, then you're probably safe to assume you're dealing with meets and bounds,
Mhm.
even if they don't make any sense.
All right. Our next question is about townships and sections, which that is about the government rectangular survey system. And
You knew it
Renew,
was,
that cannot be explained without some pictures. So
yeah,
I'm
but
gonna
maybe we could
say
tell them like a little bit of factoids,
I
like
can. Okay, so basically, there's a map. There's a map of the United States, and just like we have imaginary lines of longitude and latitude, there's a whole bunch of imaginary lines that create like crosses. Like there's a horizontal line and a vertical line that is imaginary. It's so hard to explain, but imagine the
think
state
of
of
like an imaginary piece of graph paper.
yeah. Imagine you put a piece of graph paper over the United States.
Yeah.
Each state, every section, every piece of land in the United States relates to some imaginary horizontal line that we call a baseline and a vertical line that we call a principal meridian. So what we're doing is we're saying, hey, this piece of land over here relates to where these two things cross over there. So in order to make this work, you have your baseline, which is the main point. Like when you have a graph, there's an x vertical and a y vertical, axes. So you've got this baseline and you have a principal meridian, but then to split it up, you have your tiers, which are going to be horizontal, and your ranges, which are vertical. And they create these 6 mile by 6 mile blocks of land that we call townships. And then a township is going to be split into 36 1 mile by 1 mile blocks of lands that we call sections. And every section has 640 acres. Now, I know that was a lot, and that is a good review of it, but I highly encourage you, if you look on my channel, you will find a government rectangular survey system video that's about 12 minutes long that breaks it all down, because this is one of those topics where images are everything.
But can you
Images are
put like,
everything.
are you able to type in the chat the
Yeah,
36
I
sections? I would type that. I would type like 36
yeah.
sections, 640 acres in a section.
So let's see.
Like
There's
people always get that
36.
mixed up because then they think, well, there's a lot of times I have people say, well, if I say like how many acres are there in a section, and they think the 43,560 is that. Remember, guys, the 43,560 4 old men driving 35 and a 60 is the number of square feet in an acre. The number of acres in a section of a township is 640.
Yep. There we go. So
There,
there you
yeah.
go. Somebody said property management. Can I explain? All of
Like
property management?
I can explain it how I can explain what it's like to do it.
So the concept of property management, which is assuming what you mean, is this idea that if Maria has a property that she's renting out, she's so busy tutoring y'all that she doesn't have time to make sure, hey, if the water heater goes out, somebody gets it fixed, or a window breaks, it gets replaced, or something happens. So she would hire me. And because I am not an owner of the property and I'm managing it, I'm going to have a real estate license. Now, note who needs a real estate license to manage property and who doesn't varies by state. But we're going in general because I am not the owner and I'm managing her property, finding renters, taking the rents every month, doing the eviction process, all of that. That is the concept of property management. And then each state's going to differ about what I can and can't do if I'm a property manager. So there you
Oh,
go.
you know what, Renu? Here's I know what you mean. So like make sure, I mean, I'm generically speaking here, but make sure you know how long a landlord has to return a security deposit after the tenant moves out.
Oh, she said about township and section, what you have to remember for the test about township and section.
Oh, I thought you meant for
Um,
property management.
all I mean,
Okay.
it sounds crazy, but what I put in the chat and then just a basic understanding, there's a lot there. But for all of the chapters we're talking about, there's never just one thing you have to remember for the test. There are things you are commonly tested on, and that
Right.
would be what I put in the chat. But you could be tested on any of the concepts that make up the government rectangular survey system. Kayla asked, what if you manage a property and don't get paid for it? Do you need a broker license in North Carolina? All right, Kayla, I'm going to answer your North Carolina question. North Carolina, are you getting any compensation? Are you getting a discount on rent? Are they giving you tickets to the Super Bowl? Are they paying your electricity bill? It's not, you need a broker's license because remember, we're a broker only state. If you're getting any type of consideration, if you are gaining anything by managing a property who your name is not on the deed and you are not the spouse of the owner, then yes, you need a property broker's license. Any type of compensation, favors, you're borrowing the car, they pay your cell phone bill. This includes, and this is what they like to test on our state level, if Maria is my mom, she owns the house, my name is not on the deed, but she lets me and 4 friends live there, and I'm the one collecting rent, I need a property management license, or which is a broker's license. So everything counts. Anything that I'm doing and I'm not the owner and I'm basically getting paid for or getting any kind of positive reinforcement for, I need a license.
But be careful. That's North Carolina. Make sure you look it up for your
Mhm.
state because a lot of the states we will have a separate property management license that's like less
Mhm.
stringent than a real estate license. Not all states.
Mhm.
Some states you have a real estate license that's good for property management. Like some states, like the state that I live in, if you are a salaried employee of the owner of the building, like say I was an on-site manager of a big apartment building and I was on salary, not commission, then I don't need a license in that unique circumstance, but I would if I was like managing. So you need to look at your state textbook
Mhm.
under the landlord and tenant laws and under the property management section and make sure you realize what the
Because
rules
it
are
is
for your
very
state. It
specific.
varies. Every state's different.
And what she said is true about North Carolina too, Kayla. Now, if she is a corporation and I'm a salaried employee, then no. But you said you had a test question today and they were doing it for family, they need a license. They need a license. Going backwards, somebody said the GRM, it's included. So in property management, you should know what it is in case they decide to sell. But a GRM is a way that an appraiser or that somebody could come up with a value of a property. And that's based off of the rent that comes in. And you, as a property manager, have a lot to do with the rent that comes in. So you should recognize it. How much detail you need to go into depends on how much your state is testing on it. In some states, the concept and the math for GRM is on your exam. And for some states,
Was that a cat?
that was a cat. I'm like, what is it is the Wild West here today. It is the Wild West. Let me go take care of that. In
Good.
some states, it's not. Let me go pick up what my animals are tearing down. They need to get a job. They're costing me money.
Oh my god. Okay, so I guess I'm over here by myself because Candace's crazy cat. Sorry guys, I'm just catching up on the chat today. Okay, so let's see what else can we talk about. I do need to go in a few minutes because I have a call I got to take. I don't know if Candace can hear me with her cat thing going on, but
I'm
I do
here.
want to.
I'm here with this
Oh,
little
I'm
stinker.
just saying.
This is the stinker
Oh,
that's
I like that
causing this much
cat.
problems. Did you say hi? Hi,
Very
Mom.
cute
I'm
cat.
sorry. I'm causing a problem.
Did you know that all calico cats are girl cats?
Most. There are a couple males.
Oh,
All
really?
right, now go away.
Heard that. So
She
I
just
was
wanted to
just
get
saying,
closer.
I'm sorry I have to hop off because I
That's
got to take
okay.
a
No, thank
call.
you for being here. I appreciate you.
Bye, everybody. I'm glad to see you all today. And I
All
will.
right. Well, Maria, I will talk to you later. Guys, say thank you to Maria for, dropping by and helping us. And so, do you know how to get out? There, she's gone. I was going to ask if she knows how to get out, but apparently she does. So, All right. Let's see what we have in our chat here. The next one says hazardous materials. Renew, you got to give me some more. Give me what about hazardous materials? Okay, and then Marilex, you said yes. In Illinois, it's a lot of math. So, the GRM, you're gonna take your gross rent and then multiply it by that number, the gross rent multiplier, and that will give you value. However, once again, we're talking about state specific. What they consider to be gross rent can depend on states. Some states say a gross rent multiplier, you take that multiplier, you multiply it by your monthly rents. Some states say it's annual. So look at what your school has provided to see how your state defines a gross rent multiplier, like which numbers you're supposed to use to multiply. And then you're saying HUD. Give me some more what you mean about HUD. What do you want to know about HUD? Cantoray said carbon monoxide versus radon. Both will kill you. The difference is carbon monoxide comes from appliances or like cars. So when people are affected by suicide and they decide to use their cars, that gas that the car gives off, that's carbon monoxide. If you have electrical appliances, then one of the off products, I guess the best way to explain it, is carbon monoxide. It has no smell. It builds up in your house when there's a problem, and it's actually a very silent killer, kind of like you can get a carbon monoxide detector and a smoke detector for your home. In some states, anytime that you have gas appliances or gas coming into the house, you have to have a carbon monoxide detector, and that's going to detect whether or not there is a carbon monoxide leak, and then you want to get out immediately, because you will basically fall asleep and never wake back up. And not in the good, I'm tired way, but like seriously, permanent sleep, i.e. death. Radon will also kill you, but not in the same way. Radon is a naturally occurring gas that builds up from the ground. It comes from decaying uranium. And if you have a basement, but anybody, but especially if you have basements, and this is going to sound terrible, but y'all know this if you're here with me. It's like a fart. You know, if I'm in the back seat and you're in the front seat and I fart, it's going to move to the front. Just like, I mean, it's a gas. It moves, y'all. Like if you're in the car and somebody's pumping gas, you can smell the gasoline coming through the walls and the windows of the car. Well, radon is a gas, and it can seep through walls and cement. And so if you have a basement, this radon is seeping through and it builds up. It's like this gas can build up. Radon, once again, it can't see it. It has no smell to it, but it is the second leading cause of lung cancer in the United States. So you're breathing this in and you don't know it. So when people buy houses, or even if you don't just test it when you have a house, you can test for radon levels. And if you want it to fix it, you basically, the fix to it is ventilation. You put in ventilation systems that get the air moving in and out and in and out like that. So, I mean, you knew that I was crazy before I used farts to talk about radon. Just saying. Nakia said, I had a question on my test about if a group of brokers can talk about their rates with each other. Certainly not. Unless they work for the same company. We have a lawsuit going on about this right now. $7 trillion, $7 billion, not trillion. $7 billion in lawsuits we're dealing with as real estate agents. Oh, no, ma'am. If they are different brokers working for different companies or on this business for themselves, no. Now, if I'm the broker and you're like an associate broker and you're working under me, we can talk about what we are charging. But if it's another company, like two different signs, most definitely not. That is an antitrust violation. And please do not do, that one's a big one. That, Nakia, that is a big one. I am not overselling that one. No, 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 no. Okay, what else? Why did they used to use asbestos? Well, I mean, the same reason why we used to use lead-based paint. It's what we had at the time. Asbestos is very helpful. It just happens to be very harmful. I mean, isn't that true with every food we eat? Like Doritos are real helpful when I'm depressed. Doritos and cream cheese, surprisingly good, but they will kill you if you eat too many of them. Asbestos is the same thing. It has its place, but it's when the asbestos is friable, meaning if it flakes and you can breathe in the remnants of it, then that's what can kill you. It causes lung and stomach cancer. Why did they use it? Because it works and it was available. And then they were like, oh, my bad. It's killing people. So, yeah, that's why they don't use it in as many products anymore. Waterproof, fireproof, pest control. Oh, why do they use it for that way? I mean, they used it for all sorts of things. I mean, they used it mostly for insulation. I could have been in some fireproofing, but I mostly think of it for insulation. Amanda, you said you didn't pass your test, but you don't have the strength in a certain topic. Other testers in this, one guy with this thing away, and I can't think with the noise. I can with music. Amanda, I don't really have a good answer for that. Like, your testing centers are supposed to supply good, quiet environments for you to test, but I would say don't give up. You're so close. And I know it's frustrating and it's easy for me to sit here and be like, don't give up, keep going. But if this is what you really want, it's worth it. It really, really, truly is. I've been doing this for 20 years and it is worth the pain, the jumping through the hoops, the getting there. Real estate is not for everybody. And I'm not saying this to you, Amanda. I'm saying this to everybody. Some of y'all are going to pass your test and decide real estate's not even what you wanted, and that's okay. But have you learned something? And just because you're getting a license doesn't mean you necessarily have to go into sales. Amanda, there's so many things that you could do. If real estate interests you and you're liking what you're learning and it's just the test that's keeping you from moving forward in this career, screw that test. Take it, beat it, and then you go on and do what you want to do with your test, with your life. But don't let a test, I mean, you can do this. You are so close. So you obviously have the ability to do it. It's just going to take a couple more tries. And trust me when I say you are not alone in the difficulty. Marilex and Victor, you said HUD for fair housing laws, families with children. Well, HUD will enforce some of the fair housing laws, but your fair housing laws are fair housing laws. You get them on a national and you get them on a state level. And if we're looking at a national, and most states have laws that back it up, there is a protected class, familial status. And that is saying we can't talk about kids, just like we can't talk about Bruno. No. We can talk about Bruno. Okay, that's enough of that. But I couldn't help myself. But you can't mention kids, especially if you go into property management. You can't, but sales just as important. Oh, are there a lot of kids here? Do kids live here? I don't want a place with kids. We don't talk about that. I don't want to live near kids. We don't mention children. That is a protected class under the Federal Fair Housing Act. All right. Hey, Dante. CERCLA. So CERCLA, what does CERCLA stand for? The Comprehensive Environmental Response, Compensation, and Liability Act. So many words. But basically, CERCLA is the act having to do with environmental. And it says, look, here are the things that are bad for the environment, and if these things, well, there's another act that defines them, but if you have brownfields, if you have areas that have been contaminated, CERCLA says you have to pay to clean it up. It has to be cleaned up. You can't just be like, let me kick some dirt over it and pretend like it doesn't exist. Nah, y'all, you gotta clean it up. And it's the Superfund Acts, SARA, the Superfund Amendments and Responsibility, maybe Acts or something like that, that says, oh, you don't have money? We have a fund for that. But be very clear that when it comes to CERCLA, everybody is responsible. Do you own it currently? Have you ever owned it? Did you ever rent it? Are you part of a company that owned it? Are you part of the company that got the toxic waste there? Did you make the toxic waste? Did you arrange for the toxic waste? Like, if you are related to that property in any way, shape, or form, everybody is liable and they have to clean up that spot. All right. So, William, you're correct. Asbestos is bad only if you disturb it. Yes, if it becomes friable. Right? Uh, Kayla said, "Look, Amanda, the same thing happened to you. It was in your earplugs and the headphones, and you missed it by 3. It was so distracting. I mean, y'all, I hate to be the Karen, but if somebody is doing something that's getting on your nerves, like for me, I don't know about y'all, but when somebody's nose is running and they're over there like, I can't stand it if I'm trying to test, and I'll be like, look, can we get them some tissues so they don't have to, they can." Or go out and blow, because that's the kind of thing that drives me crazy. Or somebody with a clicky pen, I will clicky pin this in your eye. Like, I can't stand it, so I understand. I just, ugh. I would ask them to take care of it. I'd be like, somebody's gonna have to stop that. So it is distracting. And devil's advocate, real estate is gonna be distracting. So if you have kids, kind of put on your mom filter, or like when you were in high school, or somebody's just like, you go to a bar and there's some drunk people over there getting on your nerves. You kind of just have to put on that magic. I can't see, I can't hear you, but I know it is frustrating. I'm right there with you. I wish I had a better answer. What is a contingency clause? All right, so a contingency is an out. A contingency is an out. It's an exit. So you have a contract between two people. I'm going to do something. I'm going to do something. One of those people says, but maybe I have a reason why I don't have to do something and I can get out. That is a contingency clause. So a common contingency clause is a financing contingency. You might have a buyer that says, hey, seller, I want to buy your house. And a seller that says, hey, I'm going to sell you my house. But this buyer says, I'm going to buy your house, but if I can't get financing, bye-bye. That is a financing contingency. It's giving them the right to get out of the contract contingent on them getting financing. A financing contingency. But you can have contingencies for all sorts of things. Every state, in some states you have multiple, but a lot of times as real estate agents, we'll have pre-made contracts. And those pre-made contracts will have different contingencies. You are going to have to get to know those contingencies for your state and your contract. Let's see. Renew, you asked about TRID. So TRID stands for Truth in Lending, RESPA Integrated Disclosure. So the easy answer to this is Truth in Lending is the act that says, look, lenders, if you're going to be loaning money, you must be honest about the fees and expenses somebody's going to have to pay. Specifically, when we talk about Regulation Z in advertising, where if you're going to advertise, you have to give the details. You can't say, you can own this house with only 1% down, and then have a whole bunch of little words to talk about all the little details. Like, they have all those little words because Truth in Lending, TILA, says that they have to. That's TRID. And then when we're talking about closings, specifically for houses, Truth in Lending says, I don't know if I just said that right. Everything I just said so far is Truth in Lending. And then Truth in Lending says when it comes to houses that you have to get a disclosure statement that tells people, hey, here are your fees because you got this mortgage. RESPA, Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act, is an act specifically dealing with closings for residential real estate. And it too says, hey, as part of a protection through RESPA, when somebody's buying a house and getting a residential mortgage, you need to give them a piece of paper that breaks down all of these charges that they're going to have to pay. 2 different acts, both requiring paperwork that explain the charges. So one of the major things that TRID, Truth in Lending, RESPA, Integrated Disclosure did was said, okay, what we can do is we can use one set of documents that's going to cover the responsibilities and the requirements of both TILA, Truth in Lending, and RESPA. One set of documents to disclose everything that needs to be disclosed on both laws, and it satisfies both laws. TRID. All right. What else? Is that it? Ariel, you said, please talk a little bit about the differences between joint tenancy, tenancy in common, and tenancy by the entirety. And Dante, you said, but that. I suppose I can. All right, so what do we have here? So we got joint tenancy, tenancy in common, tenants by the entirety, all forms of co-ownership. Whew. I feel like I'm like test the teacher here, but my brain can handle it. Mhm. Ownership by one person, ownership severalty. Ownership by more than one person, co-ownership. Without getting fancy, what you probably thought co-ownership looked like before you took a real estate class is going to be tenancy in common. If you have A, B, C, and D who own a house together, they have equal possession, even though their interests can be equal. Can be unequal. So if you have A that puts in 70%, and then B puts in 10%, C puts in 10%, and D puts in 10%, everybody gets equal access. A can't be like, y'all peons get a closet and I get the whole house. No, possession is equal, even though interest is not. And if they stop getting along, D could be like, you know what? I don't want to be part of this anymore. D could sell to L, and now your owners would be A, B, C, and L. No biggie. It's what you assumed. If D died, that's how they decided to get out of it, then D's ownership interest would go to their heirs. Nothing weird there. However, if you want to get weird, you jump to joint tenancy. Joint tenancy is where you have A, B, C, and D as co-owners. But in order to get into joint tenancy, remember that we've got to have some qualifications. And that's when possession, interest, title, and time have to be the same. Possession, interest, title, and time have to be the same. And when you're on the national side of the test, that will be 100% true. If you're in some states, like North Carolina, it's a little bit different, but we're going to table that because this is a national review, not a North Carolina review. On a national level, possession, interest, title, and time have to be the same. Everybody has equal possession. Everybody has to have equal interest, 25, 25, 25, 25. And they have to take title at the same time, right? All of those things must be equal. And then that qualifies you. Congratulations. You can now be a joint tenant. Well, why would you want to be a joint tenant? It's not like you're winning money. You could, but it's not like you're going to in general. Joint tenancy qualifies you to have the right of survivorship. What is the right of survivorship? It is this idea, if you have A, B, C, and D, when D dies, instead of that interest going to D's heirs, D's interest gets sucked back in. It gets soaked in, absorbed by the three remaining people. So you might have started with 25%, 25%, 25%, 25%, but when D dies, a third, and a third. If C were to die, 50%, 50%. And I know better. You thought I was going to get that one, huh? And if B dies and it's just A, then they would own all of the property. It's this idea that when one of the original joint tenants dies, their interest cannot go to an heir. It must go back to the remaining owners. Right of survivorship. However, if you have A, B, C, and D as owners, and D decides to sell, I can't really take off my pinky, but I kind of want to. If D decides to sell, then D could sell to M, and now M would be would not be a joint tenant. They would be a tenant in common with A, B, and C. So if you have A, B, and C joint tenants, and here's M over here, M could die and it could go to his heirs because M is a tenant in common. If C were to die, C is still a joint tenant. So if C were to die, it would be, let's see, that's 33 and a third, that's 15. Okay. So basically, you get what I'm not doing this math. My math head. Wow, that hurt. So each of them had a third. And then this person, no, each of them had a quarter. Jesus Christ. Okay, let me start over. Nobody said I could math off the top of my head. A, B, C, and D each have a quarter. D sells to M. Everybody has a quarter. So if C were to die, we're going to add 12.5% to A and B. Their portion is going to get bigger, and this person will still have a quarter. Dear Jesus, does that make sense? Why did I try to add numbers to that? I got nothing. Y'all could do the math if you want to. Boo. Don't talk about that anymore. And then tenancy by the entirety is the same thing, except it's for married couples. I'm really mad y'all made me math. I don't like y'all anymore. It'll hurt my head. Do not math off the top of my head. Which, guys, I teach math. Just because I teach math doesn't mean I'm good at numbers. I would need to have a paper and a pencil. It makes sense, but I don't math off the top of my head. And if I can do this math, you can too. You can do it. So, is it like a condition? Is what like a condition? Remember, I'm going back in order. So, let me know, Marilex. It's like a condition to what? Right. No, Regulation Z is truth and lending, and Regulation X is RESPA. Good night, William. I'm sure I missed you there. And can you will tenancy by the entirety? No, you cannot, because tenancy by the entirety are husband and wife, and one dies, the other person becomes the sole owner. You cannot will it. Can I do the type of deed covenants? Well, I can do. I'm not. What it doesn't do. Ooh, that's a big one, Nakia. I want you to email me because I don't know if I would get all of them off the top of my head and feel comfortable I covered all of them off the top of my head. But if you email me, I will give you a list. I will send you a list of what they do. I just don't trust myself at 6:51 at night, to get it right without missing something. But I don't want to not answer your question, so email me and I will send that to you. It is just, and I'll put it in the chat. It is Candace at CandaceEllis.com. And just say, hey, can I have the information about covenants? But when one sale, his part, and the other comes in tenancy, how is it divided? So I'm assuming, Renew, that you're talking about if you have 3 joint tenants and you have 4 joint tenants and one sells, well then this new person gets 25%. So now you got 3 tenants and 3 joint tenants and 1 tenancy in common. If this person dies, whatever they have gets split evenly among the remaining 2. All right, that's your brain, Marilex. I'm just like, it was math. All right, and tenancy in common. You could be tenants in common, Marilex and Victor, but different states do different things. In the state I am in, if you are married and then you buy the house, we're going to make you tenants by the entirety unless you ask to be tenants in common. So you need to check what happens in your state. All right. I'm a good teacher and I make it fun. We call that crazy. In 1988, what was added to in the FHA? I got nothing. Cantoray, I tell y'all all the time that you need to know what was added to what year and which date. I do not keep that information in my head. You see how I am with numbers. But it is something you should know. I do not know off the top of my head. I take that one all day, every day. I have made a conscious effort to not memorize it because there's way too many numbers. But you do need to know it if somebody wants to put it in the chat. Or, I mean, I would just say just know it. It's a number you have to know. I want to say 1988 was... Let's see. It wasn't race. It might have been... I don't even know. I got nothing. I feel like that's something I should know off the top of my head, and I will point blank tell you I do not. I do not have that answer off the top of my head. Don't have it. Can't, won't, don't. But if you need, I mean, I can look it up. If you really don't have something that tells you from your own notes, you email me, and I will go look it up, and I will tell you, but I don't have that off the top of my head. Horizontal property rights showed up on an exam. How does that work with condos? Michael, it depends on the question. And it was one of our exams because we will talk about it in class, but I'd have to see the question and what they're talking about horizontal property rights, because we're talking about side by side. If we're talking about land, we're talking about you not being able to do something that describes this. But when you're talking about condos, you can't do something in your condo that's going to affect the neighbor's condo. So I'd have to see the question. And And okay, oh my gosh, it's 6:55, guys. That is disability. Thank you, Ariel. Ha 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 ha. There you go. It was an amendment from familial status and disability. See, this is what we are, a team. We do this as a team, guys. That is what I'm talking about. So I can't believe it's 7. You all had a special guest. It was Maria. Who knows who it will be next week? I don't know. But I promise you, I'm still working on a voidable, valid video on top of, for my state, making some changes to videos I have because we had changes. And so I just do a lot, guys. But you will see me next week. Remember, every Thursday, I like to do these at 6 p.m. It might change in March, depending on my schedule. You know you get to see me and Maria Monday nights if you join our mailing list. And then, I do Tuesday and Wednesdays with Prep Agent. You get your free webinar. So you get to see a lot of me, and I hope that helps. And hopefully you don't want to kill me. But guys, I got to go. Speaking of killing things, I got to go wrangle my animals because you saw it is a zoo around here. Thank you so much for being here. You know how to reach me if you need help. And I guess I will see y'all later. Bye.